Sat down in the sand, hardly daring to breathe. Trav, again. The wonder of this never to be hoped for return filled him with a surge of happiness almost too great to bear, which hurt in its way with as great a pain as Logally's lash. It was a pain rooted in love, not fear and hate. Logally's lash. Shann trembled. Trav raised one of those small claws towards the Terran's face, crooning a soft caressing cry for recognition, for protection, trying to be a part of Shann's life once more. Trav? How could he bear to will Trav into nothingness, to bear to summon up another harsh memory which would sweep Trav away? Trav was the only thing Shann had ever known which he could love wholeheartedly, that had answered his love with a return gift of affection so much greater than the light body he now held. Trav, he whispered softly. Then he made his great effort against this second and far more subtle attack. With the same agony which he had known years earlier, he resolutely summoned a bitter memory, sat nursing once more a broken thing which died in pain he could not ease, aware himself of every moment of that pain. And what was worse, this time there clung that nagging little doubt. What if he had not forced the memory? Perhaps he could have taken Trav with him unhurt, alive, at least for a while. Shann covered his face with his now empty hands. To see a nightmare flicker out after facing squarely up to his terror, that was no great task. To give up a dream which was part of a lost heaven, that cut cruelly deep. The Terran dragged himself to his feet, drained and weary, stumbling on. Was there no end to this aimless circling through a world of green smoke? He scrambled ahead, moving his feet leadenly. How long had he been here? There was no division in time, just the unchanging light which was a part of the fog through which he plodded. Then he heard more than any shuffle of foot across sand, any crooning of a long-dead seraph, the rising and falling of a voice, a human voice, not quite singing or reciting, but something between the two. Shann paused, searching his memory, a memory which seemed bruised, for the proper answer to match that sound. But though he recalled scene after scene out of the years, that voice did not trigger any return from his past. He turned towards its source, dully determined to get over quickly the meeting which lay behind that signal. Only though he walked on, Shann did not appear any closer to the man behind the voice, nor was he able to make out separate words composing that chant. A chant broken now and then by pauses, so that the Terran grew aware of the distress in his fellow prisoner. For the impression that he sought another captive came out of nowhere, and grew as he cast wider and wider in his quest. Then he might have turned some invisible corner in the mist, for the chant broke out anew in stronger volume, and now he was able to distinguish words he knew. Where blow the winds between the worlds, and hang the suns in dark of space. For power is given a man to use, let him do so well before the last accounting. The voice was hoarse, cracked, the words spaced with uneven catches of breath, as if they had been repeated many, many times to provide an anchor against madness, form a tie to reality. And hearing that note, Shann slowed his pace. This was out of no memory of his, he was sure of that. Blow the winds between the worlds, and hang the suns in dark of that hoarse croak of voice was running down, as a clock runs down for lack of winding. Shann sped on, reacting to a plea which did not lie in the words themselves. Once more the mist curled back, providing him with an open space. A man sat on the sand, his fists buried wrist deep in the smooth grains on either side of his body, his eyes set, red rimmed, glazed. his body rocking back and forth in time to his labored chant. The dark of space. Thorvald! Shann skidded in the sand, went down on his knees. The manner of their last parting was forgotten as he took in the officer's condition. The other did not stop his swing, but his head turned with a stiff jerk, the gray eyes making a visible effort to focus on Shann. Then some of the strain smoothed out of the gaunt figures, and Thorvald laughed softly. "Garth?" Shann stiffened, but had no chance to protest that mistaken identity as the other continued. "So you made Class 1 status, boy. I always knew you could if you worked at it. A couple of black marks on your record, sure, but those can be rubbed out, boy, when you're willing to try. Thorvalds always have been surveyed. Our father would have been proud." Thorvald's voice flattened. His smile faded. There was a growing spark of some emotion in those gray eyes. Unexpectedly, he hurled himself forward, his hands clawing for Shann's throat. He bore the younger man down under him to the sand, where Lantee found himself fighting desperately for his life against a man who could only be mad. Shann used a trick learned on the dumps, and his opponent doubled up with a gasp of agony to let the younger man break free. He planted a knee on the small of Thorvald's back, digging the officer into the sand, pinning down his arms in spite of the other's struggles. Regaining his own breath in gulps, Shann tried to appeal to some spark of reason in the other. "Thorvald, this is Lantee. Lantee!" His voice echoed in the mist-walled void like an unhuman wail. "Lantee? No, Throg. Lantee? Throg killed my brother." Sand puffed out with the breath, which expelled that indictment. But Thorvald no longer fought, and Shann believed him close to collapse. Shann relaxed his hold, rolling the other man over. Thorvald obeyed his pull limply, lying face upward, sand in his hair and eyebrows, crusting his slack lips. The younger man brushed the dirt away gently as the other opened his eyes to regard Shann with his old impersonal stare. "You're alive," Thorvald stated bleakly. "Garth's dead. You ought to be dead too." Shann drew back, rubbed sand from his hands, his concern dampened by the other's patient hostility. Only that angry accusation vanished in a blink of those gray eyes. Then there was a warmer recognition in Thorvald's expression. "Lantee?" The younger man might just have come into sight. "What are you doing here?" Shann tightened his belt. "Just about what you are." He was still aloof, giving no acknowledgement of difference in rank now. "Running around in this fog, hunting the way out." Thorvald sat up, surveying the billowing walls of the hole which contained them. Then he reached out a hand to draw fingers down Shann's forearm. "You are real," he observed simply, and his voice was warm, welcoming. "Don't bet on it," Shann snapped. "The unreal can be mighty real here." His hand went up to the smarting brand on his shoulder. Thorvald nodded. "Masters of illusion," he muttered. "Mistresses," Shann corrected. "This place is run by a gang of pretty smart witches." "Witches? You've seen them? Where? And what? Who are they?" Thorvald pounced with a return to his old-time sharpness. "They're females right enough, and they could make the impossible happen. I'd say that classifies them as witches. One of them tried to take me over back on the island. I set a trap and caught her. Then somehow she transported me." Swiftly he outlined the chain of events leading from his sudden awakening in the river tunnel to his present penetration of this fog world. Thorvald listened eagerly. When the story was finished, He rubbed his hands across his drawn face.